Hello and welcome to this continued video tutorial. We're going to continue working with the water balance model and look at how to run a specific model scenario and look at the summary results. So starting where we left off last time, we were changing parameters inside of the input catalog. But what we're going to look at is just how to set up our model run. So just as an example, we're going to select a mean climate scenario. So when we do this selection, the San Marcial inflows will be changed to this pattern. So for now, this is the only predefined scenario that we're going to select. I'm going to leave the reservoir operation with the default scenario. And I am going to keep my parameters as they are as by default. For now, I'm not going to make any additional changes. So I'm going to go back here to the main screen. And then we would have the option to either click on Run Model right here on our workflow, or we can just click on the green button that says Run Model. It will do the same thing. So we click on this button. And what comes out is a small form that we have to fill out where we will enter some information about the run that we're going to be making. So first it will ask for a scenario name. So we can say that we're using a water balance mean climate scenario. And let's put this like a practice run. Then after that, the form is going to ask us to select a water-related role. So there will be several roles here that are somehow linked to a water perspective. So that it goes from city resident all the way to water manager. And in my case, I'm just going to select a researcher. And then once we click on the scenario description text area, what will happen is that this will fill out automatically depending on what predefined scenarios we were starting with. So for example, the reservoir operation, we left it with the default scenario, and the climate category, we left it with the mean climate scenario. And here on the description, we have the option to add any additional text. So additional text here, if you want to be more descriptive on the scenario that you're creating. And now if you are signed in, you will see that you will have a checkbox here that says run as public scenario. So if the checkbox is marked, it means that this scenario will be available to everyone in the public scenario section of the website. But if you want to leave it just as private, just keep it for yourself and look at it on your own scenarios. You just uncheck it and this will make your scenario private. But for now, I'm going to leave it completely public. And in case that you're not signed in, you can still run a scenario, but the system will ask you that you need to agree with the terms and privacy policy of the site. So I'm going to click on submit. And this should take a couple of seconds and we'll have the summary dashboard coming up, ready to go. So the water balance is a pretty simple model, so it doesn't take much long to execute, just a couple of seconds. And now I'm going to basically walk you through to what comes out next. So after the execution is finished, you'll see that on your workflow pattern here, you'll be taken to step number 3, which is the view results. And under the view results, we have two subsections, which is the summary and the output catalog. And by default, what we're looking at now would be the summary dashboard. So the summary dashboard has a set of components, which I'm going to describe right now. So at the very top left, you would have the scenario name that you gave your specific run, and the description that we gave it, and the status, if it was complete or not, the start time, the end time, and at what year is the projection starting. Remember that you can change the time range if you want before running the scenario. If you click on the time range button here, you can change at what time your execution date is your projection date is gonna start, and when is it going to end. So those settings can be changed here. So going back to the dashboard, here what we present is a set of summary widgets or small visualizations that give an overview of what happened overall throughout the whole simulation. So as an example, here we have some gauges that show the water volume at stored in LFM Butte Reservoir during different times. So we have at the starting year, which would be the year 2020, and we have the end year storage as well. So this would be by the end of the simulation as a capacity of the reservoir. And we also have the average year storage at LFM Butte Reservoir throughout the whole simulation period. Another thing that you'll notice in these gauges is that we also have a context value, which is this average here. So what you see up to this point would be your average reservoir capacity between 1964 and 2013. So this is just to give people a little bit more context on what they're looking at, and if their results are perceived as good or as bad, depending on the outcome of the scenario. So another thing that you will find is that you might get, depending on what type of user you selected, you will get some summary widgets talking about the groundwater levels. So for example, here we have what happened at the Mesilla alluvial, which is the shallow sections of the Mesilla aquifer. So here it gives a cumulative overview of what happened, how much cumulative agricultural pumping was done, how much recharge was done to the aquifer, and overall what would be the net recharge, which would be the sum of the agricultural pumping and the actual recharge. So here in this case we have a nice positive net recharge overall. And then if we look at the Hueco Bolson, for example, well, the story is a bit different here. We have less agricultural pumping. We have much more urban pumping. The recharge amount is fairly small, and overall you have a negative net recharge for this aquifer. So this would be the overall summary of this video, and in the next one we'll actually be digging deeper into the results by going into the output catalog section.